Hello everyone, welcome to Closers. On this Closers episode, we're talking with the executive team from DOSS. DOSS is a prop tech company that is obsessed with creating an end-to-end, fair-priced digital marketplace, developing a voice assistant that is helping personalize the home buying experience. Bobby Bryant is the founder and CEO of DOSS. Chris Norton is the chief operating officer and an emerging tech leader who is helping build this impressive platform. These two prop tech leaders are building an intuitive platform that is set to disrupt the real estate industry. I enjoyed my conversation with DOSS, and I know you will too. Stay tuned for more. This episode is sponsored by Outfield. Outfield is a performance-based CRM company for winning sales teams. At Outfield, they know that sales is a sport, so they provide the one tool you need to stay on top of your game. A gamified CRM that optimizes your productivity and maximizes your performance. If you're looking to add a competitive boost for your team, visit outfieldapp.com and use the promo code CLOSERS for 10% off. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Closers. I've got the COO and the CEO of DOSS with us today. Excited to learn more about real estate and how they're disrupting the market. Bobby, Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
We've been chatting over the last few weeks, getting this up off the ground. I've learned a lot from you guys. The real estate game is hot right now. A lot of things are happening in the market. Love what you're doing. Love the technology that you're bringing to the forefront. But it really all starts with you, Bobby. You've been in the real estate industry for 20 plus years. Tell us more about your journey and some of the accomplishments and highlights you've had along the way.
Wow. So it's interesting. I started back in 1999. I entered the real estate industry on the mortgage side of the fence. Classic me. I like understanding how things work behind the scenes. I came into the business as a processor, having to process, collect all the documents, square peg, round hole, the buyer with the right lender. And then in 2001, I moved to Houston. And so I moved to Houston, actually began working with the broker as a loan officer. And about 2 years after that, I worked up to becoming a broker myself. And so did that for a while, was very successful, did very well. I had as many as 40 loan officers. I actually became a millionaire by the time I was 30 years old. Things were great. And then all of a sudden, 2008 happened, and it was like somebody turned the lights off to my business as we experienced a recession that impacted everybody in this business. I took a year off. I wanted to understand how consumers would come out on the other side of this recession. I wanted to study. I wanted to understand. I wanted to learn what happened in the previous depressions and recessions and how that impacted consumers in the 80s when this took place. And I came out of that experience believing that the consumer would be more financially savvy, more price conscious, would be more involved with the evolution of technology. And I took a first version stab at what is now considered DOSS. Along that journey, owning a real estate brokerage firm is what I started at that time. I also owned a real estate school. I owned a real estate title company. I had the opportunity of participating in almost every vertical of the real estate industry. And so I got a chance to see things from a different lens than the average person who may just be a loan officer, a realtor. I saw it as an owner. And that's what I believe helped me and us create DOSS. And the real estate journey and my experiences in creating this real estate market is why I think that DOSS is what DOSS is.
Talk a little bit more about the real estate industry today. We've seen with COVID and all of these recent market trends, we've seen some really interesting things shake out over the last 18 months. So from your seat and your perspective, what are some of those trends and what excites you as you're building out DOSS?
Great question. What excites me is really also understanding the history of real estate. A lot of people don't know that the real estate industry has been its formal self for 113 years. And we have an industry that in a lot of ways exists today as it did when it was founded back in the early 1900s. But there's a lot that has changed, obviously. The internet was commercialized in 1994, 1995. The average agent throughout the country is a baby boomer. But at the same time, the largest purchasers of homes right now is a millennial. You have to take all of these things in consideration when you're a company like DOSS with a team that's attempting to create what we believe is the next era of real estate, how we envision it to be practiced, not only for technology, but also from a business model and method perspective, right? And the industry today is very different. Gone are the days when there was no internet and you used to have to, the industry had what they call these big old MLS booklets. You couldn't go to the internet and search for houses. There was no smart lock boxes. Each brokerage had this big old ring of keys and you had to go to each home and unlock it. There was no GPS. We had map books. And you had benchmarks and milestones, and there was no easy way to find property. So you fast forward to today, and now you have a situation to where the consumer can really sit in the private and comfort of their own home, and they can deep dive and do searches and look for properties on their own. But even that is still limited, which is why we're creating DOSS. Is we have this era of what they call graphical user interfaces that involves clicking and checking boxes, limited results. And it takes you so far and then makes you have to contact somebody, right, to get more information.
There's always that barrier.
It always is that gatekeeper. And what we wanted to do is be able to set that data free, set that information free, empower the consumer to be empowered, to enable them to be able to search and make the biggest decision that most of us make in our lives, which is purchasing a home. And give me the information, give me the data to allow me to make that decision. And then when I want to be connected with a practitioner, that practitioner facilitates the transaction, because I only do this every 8 to 12, average of 10 years, and help me avoid the pitfalls of home ownership. That's what we see as DOSS being the solution today, coming from where the industry was up until now.
You've shared about the technology lag. Talk about how you've seen over these past few years that shift and the power go in the consumer's hand.
Yeah, we have to look at the industry or industries, not even just real estate. I think that industries had this mindset, this historical statement that you can't serve two masters, right? You have to focus on one, side of the coin. But what Chris and I have learned in our creation and evolution of DOSS is that we no longer believe that. Let's take companies like Uber. They do a phenomenal job of serving two masters. Who are those two masters? It's the consumer that's riding, that wants to ride, but it's also the driver. They take technology and they do a beautiful job of making sure that both sides of that coin have a beautiful experience, that the rider has a good experience and the driver has a good experience, bring them together. Same thing with Airbnb, same thing with Amazon. And we're believing that with real estate, different from the big box companies and search platforms that exist, is that historically they've been agent-centric. We haven't seen a platform or a brokerage that has organically and effectively built a consumer-centric platform, as though we have to lose somebody in that equation, or that somebody has to lose. That at DOSS, we believe that we could successfully sell, just like Uber, Amazon, and Airbnb, that we could sell the agent a great experience, but we could also do the same thing for the consumer.
I want to add something to that, because there's a huge differentiator between the way our business model, the way we want to function, and the way that Amazon and Uber, in particular, treat their employees. Everyone who works at DOSS is going to get a very fair wage. They create a beautiful technological experience, and I don't know if they've actually leveraged that appropriately for the benefit of everyone who wears their colors. Everyone who works at DOSS is going to be treated phenomenally. We are not out to exploit our workers. We're not going to exploit our agents. They are going to make more money saving the consumers money And that's exceptionally important. It's a core value proposition. I just want to make sure it doesn't get lost. It's really easy to get lost in the weeds of the technology talk, and
Yes.
I just want to make sure and point that out real fast.
Great point. When you're customer centric, you have to make sure that every touch point along the way is customer focused, but that person that is that touch point is genuinely approaching that journey.
Well, if you go to Bobby's LinkedIn, under his hashtags he's got under his name, he's all about the hashtags. He's got voice first, human first.
Yes.
DOSS is a human first technological application. This technology has existed for quite a while and hasn't been properly leveraged because the value proposition hasn't been there as the current business structures, profitabilities are currently maintained and built. We're building DOSS with this technology from the core, from the outset, so that we can make money while having the human beings that participate in this ecosystem have the best experience possible, save money on one side and make more money on the other. Everybody wins. We're not looking to exploit anybody because we don't have to. We're not holding up outdated business models. We're not held back by outdated technology. If you look at the US in general, you look at our cell phone infrastructure versus our landline infrastructure, Southwestern Bell's been holding back, and AT&T's right now lobbying to keep the upload limits as low as possible because their infrastructure is so outdated.
Yeah.
You go to India, they kick our butt in internet. Why? Because of lobbyists and things. We're building a new company for a new generation, a new way of doing things with modern technology with forefront of thought. So we win.
No. and again, creating that win-win. Again, we operate from the motto that nobody should have to lose in the equation
At all.
And you want a practitioner on the other side, a service provider that wants to be able to earn a fair wage and to be able to provide for their families and have fun doing what they're doing, which is helping people. How can we bring this together? Why does somebody have to lose in the equation?
Yeah.
And that's what we believe with our business model that unequivocally we're creating.
Love it. Give us the overview of DOSS. Talk about your mission and your market differentiators.
The thing about DOSS is, Chris knows that I'm a big Simon Sinek fan. Simon Sinek makes a statement that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And at DOSS, what our mission is to make homeownership more affordable. It's just that simple. For sellers, for buyers, we want to be able to automate, streamline the real estate industry like it's never been done before. We want to be able to take big data, to centralize it, to better humanize it, and mobilize that information for the consumer to make the best decision about the largest purchase of their lives. And by doing that, we're able to be more efficient and then save them money in the process. That's the big picture of DOSS. You know, we are a digital real estate marketplace. What does that mean? That means that we are creating a technological solution that will radically evolve the way people search and transact real estate. But they're also going to need financing. We have a mortgage company. They're also going to need a home warranty to protect their asset. We have that. We've also partnered with 2 smart home security companies, the 2 largest in the country, to provide that seamless experience, reducing the fragmentation that when a consumer comes and works with a brokerage company, a realtor, an agent, and they have to be ping-ponged around to 10, 12 different people in the process, I have to steal his thunder and say that the industry operates like this. And so we're able to turn it down around and allow a consumer to come through the front door and seamlessly go through the process because it's all connected to enhance their experience. That's what this is all about. DOSS is all about helping the consumer with the phenomenal, efficient experience that, again, gives them great service at a fair price.
And that's something that wasn't possible without the technology that's come around in the past 8 to 10 years. So you're talking about you've got mortgage, home warranty, you've got the buy-sell process, the insurance. These are all individual buckets that traditionally when you're buying and selling a house, you have to deal with a different person. And as soon as you finish one, you're off to somebody else. And it's just like when you call in to get help on something and like, can you please tell me everything you just told that person over there? Can you fill out these 17 different forms, the exact same information over and over again? Inefficient as hell. Why? Because the technology didn't exist to track it all the way along. And then by the time the technology came around, the people who were really good at practicing real estate were so busy practicing real estate and staying good at it, they couldn't keep up with technology. And the people who were learning technology knew nothing about real estate. One thing we've come to discover is if we find someone who's fantastic at real estate, they know nothing about tech. And if you're a genius at tech, you know nothing about how real estate actually works. And the biggest problem we had to overcome was figuring out how to overcome that ignorance gap on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, you're bridging two communities and leveraging the best of both worlds to make one seamless experience for the customer.
100%. And one of the biggest barriers in there, strangely enough, is vocabulary. Everybody's using the same words and they mean something different. And that's a problem. Vocabulary exchange is a huge issue that we deal with on a daily basis when we're talking to everybody.
That's awesome. Talk more about the homeowner life cycle and how DOSS plans to address some of the pain points in that process.
Yeah, so when we start talking about the process and the life cycle, and based on our research and what we've learned, most people, when they start searching for a property, they're 6 to 8 months out in terms of shopping. And so they trying to get an idea of not necessarily the house as much as it's about the area where they want to live, especially now post-COVID, or as we're still in, and we have some states that are lightening up the restrictions. But most people now want to live close to the things that they like and love doing. You know, if it's yoga, if it's jazz music. So we're finding that people and their habits are changing. But in addition to that, what's also interesting about real estate is that it's probably one of the only industries that sells a product that it doesn't service. And so we also wanted to be able to be unique in our approach with our technological development of how do we not only address the search and the transaction experience, but also the life cycle. Again, that 8 to 12 years that the person is gonna, or spouse or significant others are gonna live in a home, right? When you really look at it, the real estate commission business is a $100 billion industry. Home servicing is up to $800 billion. There are approximately 150 million homes on the ground in the United States, but there are only between 5.5 to 6 million homes that sell every year.
Okay.
Consistently.
It doesn't go up.
What we wanted to make sure that at DOSS, what we were able to do was to touch everybody. We want to be a sticky solution that people, unlike our competitors, aren't just coming to when they are buying and selling. And after that, there's no need to come back.
Yeah.
We wanted to create a solution, you know, that addresses all things real estate, all things home.
Service along the home buyer journey.
It is. What we learned also is, again, remember we mentioned earlier about a millennial being the largest purchasers of homes right now. But in studying the characteristics and behaviors, what we've realized is that thinking about going to Google and you're searching, right? And it says, oh, you have 1 million results. Who goes past page 2, right? Because even when I'm looking on page 1 or 2, I have to have the discernment to decide who and what. And so what we've learned is that I just want to be able to trust a platform. I want to ask for what I need and want. And I want to trust that you've done the due diligence and you're going to protect my best interests, right? Hey, DOSS, I need a roofer. I need somebody to come give me estimates on painting my floors, whether I say that verbally or I text that out. It removes the consumer having to have that discernment and go check 10 stars and go read a page full of quotes. I want to be able to trust that you're connecting us with somebody who's actually going to take care of us and provide us a good price and a great service. And so all of these things that we had to think about during our development. I'm sure Chris probably has something else you may want to, add to that in terms of trying to connect all those dots.
Yeah, because everything you said is spot on, and it gets bigger from there though, in the sense that 8 to 10 months, 6 to 8 months in advance, people start looking for the house they want to buy. They start looking that early, not because they need to define the structure. Mm-hmm. Every website you go to right now can define a structure for you, no problem. We didn't have to reinvent that wheel. Mm-hmm. 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, a couple bathrooms, how many square feet, that part's not hard. But where do you want that structure to be located is what you're actually looking for way in advance. And where do you go to find that out? Right now, you go to a website, you're like, I like the look of this structure. Let's go drive out there. And you get there, you're like, nope, I don't like this one for reasons, whatever they are. And you have to go back home and start all over again. It's a silly way to search given all the information we have these days. I can get more information about the sushi restaurant down the street than I can about the house I'm about to spend a few $100,000 on. It doesn't make any sense.
You're looking at the data points all around.
Yeah.
So you can ask for quiet streets. You can ask for being in a vibrant neighborhood, which is close to activities. You can ask for, we've even got data that won't be available day one. We're going to, over the summer, we're rolling out more and more data points as we're proving that everyone's asking the questions in a way that we can handle. We've even got data points to, is it Bikram yoga or not Bikram yoga in neighborhood?
Okay.
Is this a book club heavy neighborhood or not? We're going to let you know the actual atmosphere, ambiance, and social makeup of a neighborhood to make sure you're going to go to one that suits the lifestyle you want to lead, not just it's a beautiful house. Because you take the exact same house in Houston and you slap it in 7 different neighborhoods and you get 7 significantly different price points.
Yeah.
I don't just want a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house. I want it where I want to live. What's your budget? Because you might not be able to get that in that neighborhood. So let's be realistic up front. So DOSS is there to help you in an unbiased way. Understand, number one, here's what you're asking for. Here's what you can actually get. And you don't have to be embarrassed, because some people are embarrassed. And I get it. I was there. I was embarrassed when I first moved into my first house and had no idea what the hell I was supposed to do. I wish I'd had a DOSS that could have been like, hey, Chris, trash days tomorrow. Take the trash cans out. That's the basic level we're talking about. Just instant notification, take your trash out. Change your air filters. Hey, the weather, there's a crazy freeze coming for Houston. You should freeze-proof your house. If you know how to do that, great. If you don't, let us know, and we're going to have someone come out and take care of that for you. That's the importance of life cycle and the difference of what we're trying to start with and where we want to end up. All that's not available day one. It got to get what we know how to do it. And it's going to be interesting, because we're going to let people tell us what they want, because it's not a question of can we do it. Right now, through his years and years of experience, we've made the best educated guess possible on what technology to build in day one. And then we're going to see what people are asking for and provide the best possible, as quick as possible responses to that, and continually make it better. So day in, day out, each person's individual experience with DOSS will continue to get better as we help them service their lifestyle in their home.
Most importantly, and summing definitely all of that up, is different from our competitors. And we're creating an intuitive solution. It's how can we go beyond the box? How can we make this thing more humanistic? But going beyond the box, that's the reason why we're using voice technology. It's a lot of people don't necessarily understand the power of that technology. It actually makes AI everything that it should be. It actually mobilizes everything from machine learning to image recognition and unlocking all the data that's locked inside of a picture that we currently don't have right now. Natural light. I want to search by white cabinets and dark floor. What about a vaulted ceiling? All the data entry points that a realtor may or may not do, but we're not contingent upon those data entry errors or lack thereof. But we have the technology that can literally instantly scan and give the consumer these search filters and criteria that don't even exist. You mentioned quiet streets and et cetera. That's what we're creating, an intuitive solution.
Dive a little deeper into that. Talk more about the tech. Talk more about the tech stack that you're building and how that gets presented to the end user.
Let's just think it through, right? If I go to any of the major portals right now, and I want to look for number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms, square foot, price, zip code. That's already 5 different boxes you would have had to tick, and you didn't get to anything interesting yet. That's a pain. Now let's go ahead and talk about all the things that DOSS can start looking into day one. And it's the white cabinets, dark floors, quiet streets, near a coffee shop, A-class schools, right? So that's 5 more. So you want to go through 10 boxes, or do you just want to say, hey, show me homes in Houston, Texas with 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, with A+ schools with dark cabinets and white floors? You're done. It just happened. And then DOSS remembers, if you create your membership, it's going to know, and you'll be able to come back the next day and say, hey, is there anything that meets my criteria, anything new? That's it. You don't have to start all over again. Every time you go back, the other one, click over and over again. And DOSS is going to let you know also, hey, it's going to notify you there's other data points that you can search, but it's teaching you, because we've never had this kind of freedom anywhere you go right now. I don't know if you guys remember these Watson commercials from back in the day. It was awesome. Where the hell is it? Well, October 30th, you're going to see it. We're going to launch it, and you're actually going to be able to talk to a thing. You're going to talk to a computer, get responses and results directly back based off the questions that you asked. And it's going to talk back to you in some cases to clarify what you're talking about. And you're going to actually start to live the future we've been promised since forever. Everything from the AI and the conversational assistant to the promise of technology, which was always save you time and money. No one is using that to the benefit of the consumer these days. The business side reaps all those rewards by continuing to keep the price points high. And that's across the board. That's not just real estate.
He nailed it. When we start talking about the real estate industry and we start talking about the evolution of technology, the goal is to accomplish two things. Technology is supposed to do two things for consumers and the world: save people time and money. The real estate industry has benefited single-handedly from the advancements of technology. I just mentioned early in this interview how we start off with MLS big booklets and there was no GPS. We didn't have super key lock boxes that allow anybody now to walk up. Now we have all of those things. How in the hell do we still charge the consumer the same price in 2021 as we did in 1908? We have not evolved to empower the consumer to save time and money with these advancements of technology.
I don't think the industry's done a good job of explaining to realtors that their value proposition has evolved along with that.
Yes.
They have been duped by the industry as a whole, saying your value proposition is stuck in this box forever, so you better keep telling. And it's not true.
Yeah.
I still want a person when I'm doing these big transactions. I want an expert. They provide a different value proposition. It doesn't necessarily even mean less. It's just morphed and changed. And with DOSS, we allow the realtor to benefit their client. Mm-hmm. And then when the job is done, their consumer and hopefully future client again, in a way that allows them to make residual income throughout the whole process. So you're not having to stick it to your client on a one-time every 12-year basis. And that's more fair for everybody. I definitely agree with that. I hear so much these days is with the advent of technology and the way that things have moved forward, it is time for more fair pricing models. Mm-hmm. And everyone can define fair in their own different ways, but it always circles around the one place where we're equally benefiting here. And there's a way to make that work with modern technology. And I think our business model finally is, I think we've hit the sweet spot for real estate. We're not hitting anything else. But real estate, we've got that fair business model locked up pretty good.
How is this all powered? How are you bringing all of this experience together? How are you bringing all of these data points and this experience to consumers?
Fortunately, we have people on our team a lot smarter than me. But on top of that, so you can't do this with one platform. And you look at AI the way it's built right now, and you have all the big companies throwing out, here's my AI assistant, and each one's good at one thing. Or two things, but they all have this weird Venn diagram of IBM Watson really good at structured data, Google's really good at unstructured data, and you've got someone else who's fantastic, the company called RESTB that we're working with for computer vision, and they are the best, as far as I'm concerned, in the world at computer vision for real estate purpose. They kill it. They're better than anybody else you're going to find out there at what they do. And we're working with companies that provide us like several different data sets, and each of them is uniquely qualified, and they've really focused and they've become extremely specific in what they're great at. Well, so we had to go create our own layer of AI, essentially, tie all that stuff together. The cool thing is for the user and the consumers is when they talk to DOSS, they don't have to worry about the 7-8 different AIs that we're going to go pin from the back and give them the right answer. It's like how right now, all the data on DOSS, you could probably find 80 to 90% of it if you were willing to go to 15 different websites. But why should you have to do that? Why do you want to go talk to 7 or 8 different AIs? First of all, they're not all talking, so you couldn't. But why do you want to have to go deal with all that? We consolidate it all in one place. And that's what's supposed to happen. And if you look back at technology as a whole, it always has this fragmentation, and then something comes along to tie it together and give you a graphical user interface of Windows or your MacBook. Behind the scenes, there's Oracle in all of it. There's all these things behind the scenes that you don't know exist. That is pulling all this stuff together in one place for you, and they've given you a really good user interface. So all you care about is, so now the only argument you ever hear anybody say is Windows or Mac. There's 97 things going on behind the scenes. You don't care. You care about those two. We're doing that for real estate. We're taking all of these technologies, we're taking all of this complex but really powerful stuff and making it digestible. You don't have to be a computer whiz to use this stuff, but you get all the benefits. So that's the unique proposition of it, I'd say, is that we're able to simplify the interactions of this technology. And that's where Bobby talks about our intelligent user interface all the time. Graphical user interfaces, they exist. You go out there, you click the boxes, you do all these things. The intelligent part of that is when it's responding to your voice and you're able to only see what you care about and not have to pull up a page that's, I don't know, as tall as this room. And all of a sudden you're having to scroll. It's doom scrolling Reddit, but you're looking at one house. No, you shouldn't have to. You ask the question, here's the answer, done.
Why voice? How will that interface impact and improve the real estate industry?
So when we really think about, let's take, for example, a house that we recently sold. The house was built in the mid 80s, like 84. Want to think about all the data that surrounds that property. When we go to our competitors' websites, they all are like white labels of each other. For what Chris said earlier, they're all going to show pictures, obviously. They're going to give you price, square footage of the property, square footage of the lot, bedroom and bathroom count. All of them are cookie cutter in that regard. But it's more information. Matter of fact, there's so much more information. To Chris's point, you would be scrolling for eternity to read it. We research and trying to understand what the consumer wants. Exactly what Chris just mentioned. This is what I want. Give me the answer. So if I speak, text, or type my utterance, my question, I just want to know that answer. Or show me what I'm asking for. Hey, DOSS, show me all the houses in Houston that's between $300,000 and $400,000, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, with natural light, in a cul-de-sac with an in-ground pool, zoned to Lamar High School. Oh, okay. Matter of fact, honey, you want what? Hey, we want white kitchen cabinets. We want gray. We want light pine floors and an open floor plan. I want a contemporary exterior. I'm able to deep dive instead of just giving me these basic results that still requires me, now check this out, that still requires me to search more houses than I should. Guess what's happening today in this current climate of real estate? There's a massive buyer frenzy. It's not a lot of houses for sale on the market, and there are buyers that are clamoring over the houses. Who's going to make the right offer? With DOSS, you will have an advantage, right? Because right now, if I go in and say 4 bedroom, this price point, blah, it may show me 500 houses. But with DOSS, I can deep dive into that data, be more specific, right? And be able to only maybe have 20 results. But those 20 are everything that I would like in a home. That's the reason why we use voice. It actually empowers the consumer to deep dive without being inundated, vague results.
Because when you have 500 results, you're so busy worried the house you dream about is still on the next page. You don't realize, no, this is it. And I either need to decide I'm waiting or I need to make my move.
Yes.
And that's where DOSS comes into play. That's in this kind of a market and going forward.
We're in this consumer phase where personalization and making sure that all your needs and wants are met by your purchase, that you have to go deeper than just surface level. You have to make sure that when you're making the biggest purchase of your lifetime, you're not overwhelmed with decisions and choices.
Exactly. Imagine walking into McDonald's and the menu has 100 options.
Yeah.
It feels that way almost with real estate sometimes.
Yeah.
When you have to not only each property, especially in Houston, has anywhere between 25 and 35 pictures. Now imagine I give you 100 homes to look at times 25 and 35 pictures each. You're a little exhausted, and per your statement, which is, you're right, you're a bit overwhelmed.
One, that comes from fear.
Yeah.
And you're afraid you don't have all the information as you're making this huge purchase. It's one thing to go to McDonald's, it's a $3 burger, buy a better one tomorrow. Buy a $300,000 house, you are where you are. So you make sure you have all the right information.
Exactly.
Shifting gears here, you close your angel round to get here. Talk a little bit about those figures and how that's helped you continue to scale and build your tech.
So we're a bit fortunate and in comparison to most startups. And we over about 3 years building in tech and evolving the business model, we raised about 1.4 million. We currently and recently opened up a bridge round as we get prepared to launch and get ready for our seed round, Series A round. We're fortunate enough to have gone through 2 accelerators, being Mass Challenge and G Beta. And that has positioned us to have approximately about 9 to 10 venture funds that we've been talking to and been in discussions with, some longer than others, as we prepare for a $5.5 million round.
Talk a little bit more about that experience. Accelerators are great. It's a great opportunity to learn both sides of the fence a little bit, right? You interact with both VCs, you interact with other startups, and it becomes a think tank where you're really learning how to sharpen your sword and then build that network to go out and raise beyond what you've raised so far. So just your 2 cents there on that.
I have to speak from our experience, is that it was a good one. We attended, our first accelerator was Mass Challenge. I don't know if we expected anything. We went in fluid. We learned a lot. I heard a lot of startups, investors that came through to talk to us about the industry, what to expect, drafting our pitch decks and articulating our message, simplifying it. And then all of a sudden, Chris and I were fortunate enough again, out of 200-300 startups, to be selected into G Beta. And that experience, it seemed like we were a little bit more prepared, being our second accelerator. We were like, okay, great. This is what we want to get out of it this time, more defined. And what G Beta did for us was actually helped us hone in on our message, to be more concise in that message, helped us really draft and develop our pitch. And they put us in front of a lot of investors and what they call these speed pitches. And it was interesting to get this rapid feedback. The whole experience of a startup and talking to investors and getting feedback and trying to really have a thick filter. Because if you're in a situation where you change and pivot every time somebody gives you advice, you will never get anywhere. So Chris and I really had to have a very thick filter of knowing who we are, not losing the essence of our foundation, take constructive criticism and feedback, and we shaped and mold ourselves. And I couldn't imagine being today in a better situation than we are, because I think right now we're in a perfect position to execute a multi-million-dollar round at this point.
I want to add also, it was so interesting going through the 2 different accelerators because of the different timing, not just for us as a company, but one was pre-pandemic and one was right in the middle of.
Right.
So going through Mass Challenge, pre-pandemic, you're there every day, you're meeting. We actually built a rapport with all of our cohort mates. I don't know if that's a word, the members of our cohort. We got to see all of our people in person. And then you go to G Beta a year later, almost a year later to the day.
It was.
And it's heart of the pandemic. So everything's Zoom meetings all the time. So we're meeting between 7 and 8 investors in a day towards the end there. You're just Zoom all day. And you're just constantly going through. And it was a very different experience, but at the same time, it was perfect for us because we were right in the middle of spinning up our brokerage and getting so much work done. We could do it remotely. I'd hop onto investor calls, and Bobby's hopping on these investor calls, and we're in back seats of different cars, and you just blur out the background and no one has any ideas. It was perfect for us. The timing was perfect, but it was just such a very different, we got a lot out of each one. I think Mass Challenge for us, we didn't know what we didn't know yet. So by the time we got to Generator, we knew exactly what to make benefit of. And so we grew a lot in each place, but the difference of pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and just how it all worked out differently. I have to give G Beta huge kudos because there was another accelerator we were going to go into, and they called off their cohort because of COVID. And they were like, they just didn't know if they could figure out the value proposition. And while I understand that, G Beta really pulled something off pretty special the way they did it. I have to give them big credit for what they did.
And Zoom fatigue is real.
Oh, yeah. I logged into one meeting and some guy's like, yeah, I'm feeling like a Zombie, and he didn't know we could hear him yet. I'm stealing that. Zombie is real.
I like that.
I think everybody was feeling that way about 2 months into COVID. And then you just got used to it. And now everybody's really back to really this again. Now we're all begging, can I have my camera off?
Talk more about your recent success and what you expect for 2021.
You know what? In 2020, I can't help but smile because I tell you, with all the changes that was taking place, and there are a lot of companies that unfortunately didn't make it through 2020 given the pandemic. But for DOSS and the team, it really proved that we were heading in the right direction. Not only were we not unfazed by the pandemic, it seemed to be a catalyst for us. It catapulted us forward. and things picked up. We had a great second quarter, third quarter, did almost $300,000 in the fourth quarter going into the first quarter of 2021. Fast speed forward to this year with wanting to launch the technology. 2 weeks ago, we expanded to Austin. Today, we expanded to Dallas. We are also sitting with our attorney having intimate discussions about wrapping up the paperwork to file for our franchise, to franchise DOSS in order to scale throughout the country. Again, coming up on the launch and the fundraise, we expect 2021 to be a very huge year for us. We anticipate generating anywhere between $2 and $3 million this year in revenue. And in the fourth quarter, Chris and I are, via our roadmap, are expecting to have 20 pilot franchises throughout the country, primarily focusing on the largest major metropolitan states like Florida, New York, California, New Jersey, Illinois.
We'll have a corporate office in California because California has very specific laws, and we can't open a franchise there until we've been in business in the state for at least 4 to 5 years.
Yes. But 2021 is all about scaling for you.
2021 is all about scaling. It's our year of stratospheric growth, and we're excited about our roadmap for this year.
That perfect storm of everything that's happening with what's happening in the market, with the technology you've been cultivating and building up, and then all of the milestones you've been hitting along the way, it's just brewing and ready for the market to experience it. So I'm excited for you. Let's more talk market disruption and share some of your expertise. We talked about COVID. We've got this surplus in demand. Supply has been limited. We're trying to figure out some of the wants and needs from the consumer because now they're realizing they can work from home. They can live closer to family or some of the communities that is more appealing to them. The metropolitan areas are spreading out and we're seeing these trends. What are some of the things that are most intriguing to you about COVID and some of the data?
Yeah, so what we're seeing is that as things open up, as the future of work evolves and people don't have to go into offices like they did 2 years ago. And companies are realizing that in regards to commercial real estate, that they can save money. And so what's happening is that just like in Austin, here in Houston, and also in Dallas, and a lot of places throughout the country, people are moving to where they can have this lifestyle, right? Without being locked to a particular city, region, or whatever. And so I think what we're going to start experiencing is a lot of short-term rentals. In addition to people buying and selling, I think we're going to see a lot of being able to live anywhere at any time.
As we see that there's been these great migrations across the United States at different points in its history, but this is more of a mass dispersal. If I can work from anywhere, then like we talked about earlier, I don't need to find a structure. I can find a place that suits where I want to live and what I can afford. So now all of a sudden, I don't have to live in California. I don't have to live in Houston to work for a company based there. I can go move somewhere that I can afford what I want out of a house with amenities that I like nearby. So I can go move to these places. It's going to be interesting going forward how things all work. You mentioned the commercial real estate is going to have to figure some interesting processes out going forward. I personally know people that make decisions on where their company's headquartered, where their offices are, and they've gotten out of leases and they're not renewing them. They're going to stay remote. They're going to rent a much smaller space. They're going to invite groups in at a time, but they're talking about doing it quarterly. So you don't have to be in town if you're only going to go to the office quarterly for a couple of days at a time. It'd be really interesting how that all breaks down. And because of this mass dispersal, we're seeing a lot of people follow business to Texas because we don't have income tax in Texas. And you're seeing huge price spikes on homes. We've got prices in Austin right now where people are selling for $30,000 to $100,000 more than asking. You don't even bother offering asking. We heard a story. Someone offered, I'll give you $100,000 more than you're asking, and I'll pay off the Mercedes sitting in the driveway. Just sell me the house. These are going to be interesting to see what that price levels out at over time. Make your decisions wisely. This is a new and interesting thing.
This increase happens, then for a lot of people, it squeezes them out of the market. Case in point, we have a client that's in Austin right now, and he's looking for a $250,000 house. And the average price in Austin has spiked to an average of $500,000. He's outpriced. Not to mention outpriced, but outpriced and they're overpaying.
Yeah.
And so that goes back to what we were saying. So what is his options? And even if he does, depending on his job and what's happening with a lot of kids his age, they're just like, you know what? I might as well live anywhere. So maybe I do go somewhere where I can buy a $250,000 house and work from there, or I just rent and enjoy my freedom and flexibility of being able to be anywhere at any time.
It'll be interesting to see how that flows out, because eventually, if you can work from anywhere and you can live anywhere, there's no reason to pile the prices up beyond a certain amount anymore. Mm-hmm. There was that while we're in Silicon Valley, you had to be there. So the prices could just keep jumping. But eventually, if I don't have to be there, Bastrop's not that far from Austin. Mm-hmm. Yeah. At that point, LaGrange isn't that far from Bastrop. Where does that go?
That dispersion happens. You can accommodate to, maybe I go in the office 1 day a week. The other 4, I work from home. I still find a place that meets my needs from an amenities and a community standpoint. But we're definitely seeing that trend. And as millennials continue to get more savvy and understand how to navigate work-life balance, we'll continue to see that get pushed out further and further. As you continue to evolve DOSS, where do you see your company in 5 to 10 years?
Great question. Thanks for asking that. I see DOSS being the premier platform to go to search and transact real estate. I see DOSS as the premier site to service the American dream, to call upon, to fix, repair, install, and service a home. I see DOSS as a place for communities to connect, for neighborhoods and subdivisions. I see DOSS as all things real estate for the consumer, the trusted source that they can go to one place and get all the information that they need to know about any property at any time. And I also see DOSS being a company with a multi-billion-dollar valuation and being that platform that brings a lot of things together by introducing the world to a new interface. It kind of reminds me of the iPhone days, right? When they brought several different technologies together. I believe DOSS will be a company that brings several things together in one place that the consumer trusts, that they can get great service, again, at a fair price for everything revolving around the home. That's what I believe the future holds for DOSS. I think we're going to be in every crack and crevice of the United States. I believe that we're going to be in other countries because we're designed to do exactly that. And matter of fact, that's a goal of ours. Unlike other search platforms, we're built for it right now, today.
That's a great vision. I think that knowing your customer, knowing the pain points, and building the services and the technology to meet them where they're at is so critical to the customer journey. And so it's great to hear how you're approaching it. Chris, Bobby, thank you. I appreciate you guys sharing everything with us today. And we look forward to seeing you guys continue to evolve and grow and enhance the homeowner buying life cycle. If you guys need a home, make sure to check them out. AskDoss.com. Catch you next time. Hey there, thanks for checking out Closers channel. Make sure to follow us for all the latest Closers content. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more. We can't wait to catch you next time.